Hey, welcome to the webinar. My name is CJ. This webinar is going to go over advanced report modifications. If you haven't seen the basic report modifications webinar that's done by Christina, I highly recommend you check that out. It covers how to set up and add your reports within SigmaNEST and also how to format these reports. So this advanced report modifications webinar assumes you already have that knowledge, and if you don't, you should definitely check that out right afterwards. We're going to be covering how to modify the reports via changing the quantity, and so basically the visibility properties on some of the part labels. And we'll also be adding a custom SQL query and using that to populate a data band. These links are going to be helpful. The connect.cambrio.com is also, that'll take you to cambrio.helpjuice.com, and within there's the SigmaNEST reports. We're going to be looking at the duplicate part or label report page. Within that, a lot of useful information there. Also, W3 schools / SQL is going to be a helpful tool to brush up and expand your SQL knowledge. And finally, the Fast Reports user manual is super helpful, and there's a ton of great information in there. Finally, we'll be using some Microsoft SQL Management Studios to view some of the data populated by the SQL statements. So you're going to need SigmaNEST. The Fast Reports engine lives within SigmaNEST, and then also you're going to need an idea of what kind of report you're going to make. Usually it helps to draw it out ahead of time rather than just getting in there and tinkering around, but tinkering around is also a good way to learn. So this is the structure for Fast Reports. As you can see, two things feed into the engine. You have the report template, which we're going to configure with the Fast Reports editor, and then the data, which is populated by SigmaNEST. We can also connect to other outside databases. In this instance, we're going to connect to our own SQL database, but you can use this to connect to other information. Then the report engine takes the template, uses that to figure out what data it needs to populate, and creates a prepared report, which can be previewed, printed, exported, or emailed. We're going to create a custom SQL query that's going to merge two tables within the SN database, and that's going to make data fields available to us within the data band. So we're going to add underneath the master data, there will be a detailed data, and we'll create a sub-detailed data, and we'll get more into that later. So here we have SigmaNEST, and you can see I have three nests. You can see that I have three work orders as well. One is in red, yellow, and blue. So we're going to start off by modifying our part label. Start out with the preview. This is going to generate a single barcode for every part across all the nests. So that's going to be a lot of barcodes. All right, we got 44 pages of 8 barcodes per page, and you can see a lot of duplicate parts. So the first mod that we're going to do is go in and clone this part label barcode. All right, from here we click on the master data, go to events, double click on before print, and that'll generate this procedure here. the on before print. Here we can set the property visible to read a condition. So master data one dot visible is set to, and then we can just come here and click num and nest, where num and nest equals 1, and now we only have 6 pages. So now we have a unique barcode for every part on every sheet. If we wanted to reduce this even further, we can make it such that there is one barcode per part for the entire task. To do this, we're going to go to the connect.cambrio. I have that pulled up right here. You can see one label per part per task, and we're going to just grab this code. Basically, you got some global variables here, and in the procedure where we added the condition to set the visibility, instead of just setting that based upon the condition where num nest equals 1, we will have a loop that loops through and checks for the part name, and based upon when it finds a matching part name, it'll set the property to visible or false. So this can be edited to do things like, if you wanted to modify it so that you had individual barcodes per part per work order, you can do that, but this will just give you one barcode per part for the entirety of the task. So now we have 2 pages with all your barcodes. So that's how you modify the quantity of barcodes. Now we're going to go into our task layout summary. So let's start by previewing this. Okay, here we can see our task layout summary. On the right, we have a nice image of the nest. On the left, we have information about that the nest, including the sheet size, the sheet name, material thickness, and scrap percentage. But we're going to go and add some data to this. So initially, remember clone. Initially, we're just going to populate some data here. What we're going to do is we are going to go, and on the right you can see the data that we currently have available. It's some nest data and task data. Within the nest data, so you have your master data, which is set to the task, and then the data detail, which is set to the nest. So if you think about it in terms of SigmaNEST, you have a task which contains nests, and those nests contain parts, and kind of how one fits into the other. The same thing happens with the data bands. A task master data band can contain multiple nest data bands, which can contain multiple part data bands when we go and create that query. But initially, let's go ahead and grab from the nest data number of parts, drag that right here. Again, if you haven't seen Christina's video, I suggest you check that out because she goes over all of this formatting. Sometimes if you go from dual screens to just your single laptop, this window might not show up here. You can hold Shift and right click on it in the taskbar and maximize it or move it so that you have access to it. Preview this. Now we have an idea of the nested parts on each sheet. This one is 9. We have 9 parts here, so we know that's working. Next, what we're going to do is connect to this data and then write a custom query so that we have more information and that we can use to add to a report. So we got to go to the Data tab, ADO, choose the database. Down here you have to go set, we're going to set SQL Server. For the connection, I'm going to grab this from Microsoft SQL Management Studios. For the IT guys in the audience, you don't have to use SA. I know you guys are freaking out whenever you see that. And then be sure to select the database. We're going to use SMD base CJ. Test connection, good to go. Okay. Now, so in here we have a Fast Reports Query Builder. We can grab information, for instance, the parts and process table is what we're going to target here. So if we grab this in the workspace, we can then add information that we select, or we can choose to select all. But once we have this here, it will become available in our query. But the problem is that we want data from multiple tables. So to do this, you can edit that in here with the SQL Builder, but I prefer to use Microsoft SQL Management Studios, and here is a SQL statement that I made. Basically, you're going to select these columns to show down here, and then we're going to join the parts and process work order table with the parts work order table on the work order number, and we're going to join them where the parts and process part name column match the part name column, and that gives us a good match between the work orders and the parts. So if we wanted to edit the query in here, we can go down to Design Query in Editor, but since we have this the way we like it, we'll just copy this. Okay, now we can see down here we have the data from the parts and process and the parts field. From there we go to the page layout, and we're going to add a data band. We already have a master data and we have a detail data, so we're going to add a sub-detail data. It's going to be based on the ADO query that we've written. Move it above the footer, and then we are going to drag the work order number, the part name, the quantity and process, because this gets updated when you post. So if you post and then generate a report, you'll have a populated work quantity and process. But if we were to target the completed table, that doesn't get updated until after the work order has been completed, and that can either be through color offload or updated manually through SigmaNEST. And then we'll grab the quantity ordered. So let's preview this. And we see the work order, the part name, the quantity and process, and the quantity order. And so within the entire task, we have individual layouts and sheets. And within each nest, we have a not only the total number of parts, but a breakdown of all the parts in each layout. So that wraps it up for the advanced webinar training. There's more to this that we're not going to get into today, but if you guys want and are interested, we can probably do another webinar in the future that goes through exporting things as a CSV or adjusting the color schemes. Thanks for your time and have a good day.